So, thoughts for My Little Pony Season 8, Episode 6, Surf and Over Turf. And this is the episode where Cutie Mark Crusaders get called by the map, which, at least for me, has been quite a long time coming, especially when it became obvious that not only the elements can be called by the map, and that the map is more or less a plot device that is there to let writers skip out on the beginning of an episode, the setup, the introduction, and instead focus their time, which is limited 20 minutes, to the meat of the episode. So yeah, Cutie Mark Crusaders getting called, just a matter of time. And I wish, instead of Twilight, we had Starlight being sent. I guess it's too late now, but ever since I think Season 6, I've been wanting for an episode where Starlight has to look after the CMCs. That would have been amazing. But well, I'm not complaining about Twilight here. But anyways, back to the CMCs. It's somewhat nebulous why we have CMCs in this episode. Probably because Terramar, the Hippogriff character that's central in this episode, is a kid. Even the characters themselves are like, why are we here? The Hippogriffs have no cutie marks and we're the Cutie Mark Crusaders, so what's going on here? But, it turned out for the best, I guess. The episode was fine, even though because the setup was kind of strange. And anyways, it takes part in the now two-part kingdom of Sequestria and Mount Eris. And I was kind of curious about that kind of strip of land that the train went over, because I don't remember if that was there in the movie or whatnot. I would be kind of curious to find out if it was there. If it wasn't, then was it built by magic or hard work? But honestly, it's a small detail, and it's never gonna come up. Anyways, as the CMCs and Twilight travels to Mount Eris, of course, there's a funny moment of Applebloom telling a story about how it was AJ that defeated the Storm King. But what was more interesting for me was that my silly little personal headcanon of Sweetie Belle being racist continues. Her little expressions that she definitely wouldn't want to be a hippogriff. And a bit later in the episode, she was kind of the first one to have a knee-jerk reaction to Scootaloo's curiosity about how the whole sea pony hippogriff thing works. And I imagine that's because she has been reprimanded for being racist before. But that is just me having a giggle, and I love you, Sweetie Belle. You're the best CMC. But aside from the CMCs, we have Twilight in this episode, and she played the role of an adult semi-supervising children, semi-having a good relaxation time, which was quite a fresh approach, I guess, to having a Twilight in an episode. And the CMCs don't really need that much supervision. They're kind of sensible little ponies for the most part. So we did have the focus on them, and Twilight just kind of showed up. She didn't really have enough screen time to make a big impact, but that worked better because she didn't steal any focus away from the CMC, aside from the end. Between this episode and the previous one is honestly the scale of where the main six should be, in my opinion. In Granny's Gone Wild, the focus was on Rainbow Dash, but there was plenty of action from the supporting characters to kind of make the whole story fresh. And in this episode, the focus was on the supporting cast, but there was still a member of the main six there to reinforce the whole My Little Pony experience. And these two setups work really well, and I hope to see more episodes in these sort of styles. The last side note for Twilight, it seems that she has some sort of magic CMC radar that lets her just beeline for them from wherever she is, because throughout the whole episode she just shows up like that, suddenly walks into the scene, and it's a bit weird, but I guess it's another way of saving time. But yeah, upon arrival, they meet Terramar, brother of Silverstream, and a child of Skybeak and Oceanflow, who will be relevant, and I'll go over that later. But yeah, he's a young hippogriff, which I guess is a little bit confusing because hippogriffs are significantly larger than ponies, so even though Terramar is a child, he's like Twilight size. So that's a bit strange, and I think it threw me off a little, aside from the fact that I straight up missed that he's the brother of Silverstream. And on the surface, the plot of the episode is that Terramar can't decide where he wants to live, the mountain or the sea. So basically whether he wants to be a hippogriff or a sea pony, for the most part at least. And the CMCs aren't really helping because Scootaloo likes the sea way more, which was The fact that she thinks swimming is like flying, how excited she was about it, that was adorable. And that was like really a memorable moment. And on the opposite side of the ring, Sweetie Belle likes harmonizing heights to the point where the two get mad at each other, and it was hilarious. I loved it. It wasn't for a long time, but seeing these two little grumpy fillies that are angry at each other, it was fun. I enjoyed that. However, the whole all drifts already know where they belong is more or less a misdirection. Well, maybe that's a bit too strong of a word. Plus, I've seen some comments from people who think this episode is depicting a gender identity struggle. That I can kind of see at least, but some even think it's like race related or whatnot. Basically, seeing identity politics in a lot of it. However, I am very much convinced that the core of the story is a situation of amicably divorced parents. However, the problem is that this is a show targeted at an audience of children, girls mostly, and in the United States. And in this kind of combination, you can't really break the traditional family structure that way, or at least not without pushback, and I'm guessing that the show did not want to risk that. Which is, of course, bull, because, oh no, we might teach our children that it's fine to get divorced, even though thousands of people do that every day, whatever. But anyway, seeing the episode from this sort of lens, it is about Terramar being torn whether he wants to stay with his mother in the sea or with his father on the mountain. And of course, the resolution is that he doesn't have to settle on one, he's still welcome in both. Unfortunately, this whole subterfuge and the half-assed message muddles everything up. Which, honestly, if you don't really think about it, whichever your theory it is, because it's fine to kind of see different things, that's great, brings up discussion. But if you don't look into it, the episode becomes completely detached from reality and becomes just a fictional hippogriff race issue. Maybe only tangentially related to general human indecision problems. But overall, it is detached, and that's not what My Little Pony usually is about, and that's kind of a failure of this episode. Also, it's not really the CMC who truly solved the episode. It does feel like Twilight had most of the kind of role in there, and the circumstances just not being as dire as Terramar imagined them, and all the CMCs really do are, yeah, come take a look at this situation. Ta-da, problem solved. Really, it sort of reinforces what I said at the start of the episode, where it's not really clear why we needed the CMCs here. And I guess my last problem would be that even looking beyond the message, at least for me, it would be weird and hard to constantly be jumping between two homes that are essentially different sides of the city. Although I can't presume how children of divorced parents, for whom both parents are like in a good relationship and they stay with both parents, how that whole dynamic works. I was raised by a single parent, so this is a foreign territory for me. But it still felt like it would be too much of a hassle to really be in that position of, oh yes, I'm living in both places. But either way, the bottom line is that you have to look under the hood for this episode, otherwise the resolution sucks. I really do wish they went all in on the divorce issue and some more being down on your luck for Terramar, maybe some self-blame, who knows. And this episode could have been one in terms of emotions that would rival Thanks for the Memories. Well, maybe not as much because Thanks for the Memories had a main character in it, but still. So in the end, the episode is just kind of okay. But okay is fine. It was a good episode that keeps the streak of not bad episodes going, which in this case is 2, but you gotta start somewhere, right? Oh, but there are still things to say, and maybe I gave my judgment already, but these things definitely affected it as well. And one of them is some janky animation here and there. And I can't really say that this episode was worse than usual, but it popped out to me for some reason. Some walking down the stairs, some hippogriffs flying around. It usually doesn't do this. So I don't know how to feel about this. And of course, last but not least, the song. So finally, first song since the premiere. And I think there's still like 3 or 4 songs supposed to be in this season. I'd like to see more, but don't look gift pony in the mouth, I suppose. And at first, this one didn't really grab me, very similar to the premiere. But after a bit of setup, it got really, really good, and honestly, one of my favorite songs of the show, probably. And why I did not feel it at the start, I gave it a lot of thought, and my best guess is, and this will trigger people who like musicals, I don't really like parts or whole songs that are essentially talking in song form, essentially progressing the dialogue and the plot forwards. But I do like songs that sing to convey a particular idea, emotion, or a plot point. And while it isn't really that clear cut in this case, it's still the song starts with the CMCs kind of explaining the situation, and then Sweetie Belle sings about the harmonizing height, and Scoodloo sings about the sea. And speaking of Scoodloo, Ariel Tu Liao sang Scoodloo's part and did an amazing job. It really sounded great. And of course, in Scoodloo's part, we also had a pun. For all intents and purposes. Well, I guess if a pun doesn't make you want to die, it's not a good pun. And on that note, see you next episode.